guys, it's Emily, and today I am starting a new reading vlog. Basically, the goal is to read my February TBR. So I don't know if you've seen this video or not, but I did a video last month and this month for February where I was rewatching my old TBR videos and seeing any books that were on those TBRs that I still haven't read, making it a priority to read them because they've been on my TBR for like 5 years. I have since read Shades of Dune since filming that video, so that one is done. I believe I just have 3 books in my TBR now, so not too many. So the first we have is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. This one was on my January TBR and I just didn't get to it, but I would like to make it a priority. So this one is about this girl named Laia and this boy named Elias. They live in this like Roman Empire-esque world, and Laia's family ends up getting killed, and her brother's like harboring some secrets, so she ends up like joining the rebellion and kind of going undercover. And then like Elias is like a part of the government, and he's like one of the mass people, and he kind of doesn't like it and he wants to get away from it. That's all I really know about this book. That might have been like a really bad synopsis from anyone who has read this book, but I'm trying my best here. Then we have The Siren by Kiera, which I made a 5-star predictions video, which I don't think I've uploaded yet, but I would like to upload it, but this was in that video. So I have predicted this book is going to get 5 stars because I read the original self-published Siren many years ago and I loved it, and this is like the new published version. I don't know if I reread the original Siren if my opinions would change or how I'd feel about this. I'm going to try to keep an open mind going into this. I'm excited about it because I love Kiera writing, so I hope that I love this. I hope it gets 5 stars. That's my hope for this. And the third book we have is Popular by Maya Van Wagner. This is a nonfiction book. It follows this girl named Maya who finds this book about how to be popular from the 50s, and she starts trying them and doing like experiments to see how they pertain to like her everyday life and how it affects her and stuff like that. So I'm excited about it. Those are the books I'm reading. I'm going to start off with An Ember in the Ashes because this was on my TBR from last month, so I just want to make sure I get this one done, and then I'm going to move on to these two. Alrighty, so finally getting into this vlog. It's been a bit, but here we are. I'm currently reading An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir, which is still from my January TBR. I haven't picked up any of the ones from my February TBR, but that's okay. I just wanted to read this one first anyways. I like it. Last time I read this book was like 5 years ago when I made that TBR video that I put this book on. And then yeah, got grounded. My mom took away the books that I was currently reading, which was bad on her part because then it took me forever to get back into this book. When I first read this book, or started reading this book, like, first of all, this was the cover. Second of all, the rest of the books were not out yet. This is the only book in the series out, and now there is the rest of the series out, so like I can just binge it if I wanted to. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't continue on with the series at this point in time because I really like the story so far. I think it's considered fantasy. I think it's going to get more complicated as the story goes on, but it doesn't throw you into like a super complicated world. So if you're not someone who reads fantasy often, it's not super complicated or anything like that. Like, I understand everything that's going on. I think there's gonna be like some like, you know, like magical stuff later on that's more fantastical, but I think it's like considered fantasy. But right now there's no like really magical element, but that's gonna, I think, come about later. I like the characters. I mean, if you saw like I did like an unpopular opinions book tag years ago, and I mentioned this book about a character that I think everyone else loves that I don't, and I mean, I thought maybe I was the only one who didn't like Helene in this book, but apparently I'm not. Now, like, looking back, like, I knew, like, when I referred to this book, like, I just hated Helene for, like, so much. Reading it now, I don't hate her, but what I do hate is, the hint, I guess, at an Elias-Helene relationship. I don't want them together. Which, coming from me, is probably a shock, because I guess for anyone who hasn't read this book, Helene and Elias are best friends. So usually I'd be like, oh my goodness, friends to lovers, let's get them together. But I don't know, I think the Laia-Elias dynamic is more interesting to me, and I just prefer to read about that. I don't know, I'd rather them to get together. I guess I haven't really discussed what this book's about, but I feel like a lot of people have already read this book and do know what it's about. But for those of you who've like never heard of this book, basically we follow this girl named Laia and a guy named Elias. So Laia, they both like live in this like world where it's kind of like Roman Empire-esque was how it was described to me when I first picked this up. So they have like this like really powerful and fear-evoking, scary government, kind of like Roman Empire did. And you have Laia, who is living with her grandparents and her brother Darren, I believe his name is. There's this raid one night, and there's like some sketchbook that they are looking for that her brother has, as her brother was like a part of the rebellion, and he ends up getting taken. To help save him, she ends up finding the rebels and trying to get their help to save her brother. But like with doing that, they want something from her, so she ends up having to go undercover within like the government and their mass society, and she ends up working for Elias's mom and just become like a slave. And so bear that in mind, like her being a slave, she gets treated like horribly. And then we have Elias, who is a part of the government. He's kind of just been like raised this way, I believe, and he is one of the masks, but he doesn't want to be one of the masks. He doesn't like that they're evil, and he just doesn't like what they represent, so he doesn't want to be a part of it. And like he even like starts taking like his mask, like the mask people are supposed to, I'm not hoping I'm explaining this well, I'm kind of just going off. But the mask people are kind of like their, I guess, way of enforcing fear. Part of the government. They wear like these masks to like, I guess, guard their expressions and face stuff, and so these masks are supposed to like meld into their skin and become like a part of their face. But Elias like doesn't want to be part of that, so he keeps like taking off the mask, and it's like not melding as much. They have met, I believe. Now it took forever, but they finally have met. I do like this book a lot. I like the characters. I think the plot line's really engaging. I feel like it's a bit slow to start, maybe because like you want the characters to meet, like the two characters we're hearing from, and then when they finally do, you're like a bit more intrigued. So stuff is like definitely getting started, and like things are starting to go places. But I think this is a good like first book in a series to kind of like set up the rest of the series, to see where it's gonna go. The world is, like I said, pretty easy to understand, which, coming from somebody who doesn't read a lot of fantasy, I think that's good. I feel like the main drawback and why I don't read a lot of fantasy is because it's like I'm jumping into this world that I have like no idea. Like with contemporary, like you know the world because like it is our world, and like urban fantasy or magical realism, again, usually it takes place in the real world and there's just a magical element being added onto that. So again, it's pretty easy to understand because we're still living in our world. Whereas like I feel like with fantasy stories a lot of the time, like is my main drawback and why I don't pick up fantasy too often, is the fact that like it's a whole new world, trying to like understand like, okay, kind of what's their situation, what's that like. But I feel like it's a world that's really easy to understand. I haven't been confused at all by like anything going on, or like I find like a lot of fantasy, they like have like new words for like the magical systems or whatever, where I feel like this, it just uses a lot of the same words, and I like there's like maybe like a few new words. You kind of get the idea, and it's really easy to understand. So I appreciate that, because I just hate, like, my main drawback is like if I don't understand what's happening in a fantasy story, I don't want to read it. Like, I won't know what's going on. That's all I have to say for now. I didn't even think I told you what page I'm on. I'm on page 135. I'm like 30% of the way through it. So there. That's my thoughts on this. So I'm gonna continue reading it, and I'll update you guys once I'm further along. So I'm about 54% of the way through An Ember in the Ashes, and I just thought I'd stop here and just tell you any more thoughts I have. I feel like not a lot. I feel like it's a lot of the same thoughts that I had before, so nothing's really changed for me. I like this book a lot, and I haven't liked a book in, I feel like, in a while. It's been, like I said, it's been a lot of 3 stars lately, so it's fun to just pick up a book that I'm just like enjoying a lot. Recently I've been more in the mood for fantasy over contemporary, especially because like, a lot of my contemporary books have been 3 stars, and maybe because like I don't read a lot of fantasy, that when I do, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I feel like a lot of fantasies, when I do pick them up, I do like them, but maybe because like, you know, like with contemporary, like I like a lot of the contemporary I pick up, probably back in the day, like most of them I gave 5 stars when I first read them, so maybe because I haven't read like a whole ton of fantasy, I'm just like, I love everything. But I mean, I don't know, I generally like the genre for the most part. I think it's fun. I feel like it's easier for me to comment on like, I guess, the romance happenings in this book. It's pretty minuscule, at least in the first book. I'm sure it's going to be a bigger part of the story later on, but it's definitely like a pretty small part of it in this one. It gets gruesome. So yeah, obviously assault, warning. You need like trigger warnings for this book. I definitely recommend looking at like reviews and stuff, and looking for the trigger warnings for people who do it. But from my knowledge, I don't know if there's like actual rape in the book, but like I know like the slaves do get raped. I don't think Laia does specifically. It is something that's mentioned, assault and like branding and like gruesome stuff. It's not really ever fun to read about, and it's just like kind of hard Just like, I feel for Laia. She's like in such like a rough position. She's willing to do literally anything for her brother, and because like he's the only family she's left, and I really like admire that. But it also sucks that she has to be in this situation because you don't want that for her. But when I read this book like back in like, I think I was in 7th or 8th grade, I can't remember. I don't remember, like I remember being told like it was like gruesome and stuff, and like there was like trigger warnings and people were saying those things. I remember like not really thinking too much of it, but I think because like I was just like in middle school, like maybe I just didn't think it'd stick with me. But now reading this like when I'm 19 definitely has like a different effect on me than it would have many years ago. I have Laia as a character. I think that Laia is like a really strong character, but like, you know what, like she's also like she's like comes down and she says she's weak herself, which I think is interesting, and I'm excited to see like just her character grow. It wouldn't be really a reason for Laia to be like a super strong main character right off the bat, you know? Like, she kind of has to grow into that, like, just because, like, the way her life was before to how her life is now. Like, she has to be put in this position where she's like, super brave about it. But, like, it's hard. But, like, she does it anyways because she's willing to do anything. But it's also, like, a scary situation for her, too. I like her character a lot. I think she's really interesting. But it's also just, like, heartbreaking to see her go through all this stuff. You don't want her to go through all this stuff. But she's definitely going to, I think, grow as a character throughout the series. I feel like a lot of times I have like theories on things, but I feel like in this story I definitely do not have any theories on like where it's gonna go. The love hexagon is what I'll call it, because I remember like when the series first came out, like that's what people were referring to it as. There was like a love hexagon. I think I feel like the same way about it now, whereas like with Elias, Helene, and Laia, I did not like Helene, and I did, well, not in a sense, like, I like Helene now. I don't think I hate her as much as I did when I was younger. I just don't like Elias and Helene together, which is a weird thing, like I said, because I'm so trash for friends to lovers that you would think that they would be my ship. Maybe it's just the fact that I feel like Laia and Elias are just so obviously endgame, in my opinion, that I don't care for the other ships as much in this book. For those of you who could have just like shocked everyone, who am I? I don't like friends to lovers ships in this book. No, I don't. I do not. I've read a lot of friends to lovers ships now. I know what makes a good friends to lovers ship and what doesn't. I feel like even if enemies to lovers, like I know what I like with that ship, or enemies to lovers ships, and I know what I do not like. I think something that's like really important with the friends to lovers ship is that it needs to feel like a friendship first. You need to convince me the characters are friends. Like I need that platonic element, and I think because like one of the first scenes like we talk about with Helene is he's like thinking about like kissing her. There wasn't much on the friendship development aspect. Like I feel like we're just like at the point where like they've now caught feelings for each other. And I'm like, no, but I want to see, like, before that. Like, I need to see the platonic element before, like, we get feelings involved. And that's just maybe, like, my personal preference. I just like seeing them one versus friends. 'Cause you need to convince me that they're friends first. Otherwise, it's not going to feel super friends to lovers-esque to me. And then we have Laia and Elias. And now they've only, like, 2 scenes together, but I knew I shipped them before, and I still do. They just seem like the endgame ship for me, and I'm, like, okay with that. Elias does seem to care. He is like more caring than like more of the other masks, like who have like no feelings. Like he is like kind of caring in that sense. And he kind of like notices her and she's like, oh, she's pretty. I think that was like one of his first comments when he first saw her. He's like, oh, she's pretty. And I just thought that was kind of cute. I like their relationship, and I'm excited to see it grow. It definitely feels like because like the Helene thing's more of like the forefront right now, it's gonna be more slow burn, and I'm totally okay with that. Like let's give me a slow burn. I hope they don't kiss in this book. I don't want them to get together in this book. So that's my hope. Maybe like at the end, like, they team up or something. I want them to get together eventually, just not in this book. I feel like there's just not enough pages and time to develop their relationship at this point in time, especially because they're not, like, seeing a whole lot of each other, and I don't think they're gonna see, like, a whole much more of each other. Like, they're gonna see, like, a couple of like in glimpses and stuff, like, where they're seeing each other more, hopefully now. I want it to be more slow. And then we have the Laia Keenan thing. Opposite to, I guess, the whole Helene and Elias thing, I feel like very different feelings on Keenan and Laia, and that relationship. I like their dynamic. I really like the way that they have been able to talk to each other, and I like their relationship. That's more of a ship I'm fine with, unlike Helene and Elias. I don't know why this is, but I'm fine with that. Like, if they got together, that'd be fine. I mean, like I said, Laia and Elias seem pretty endgame, but I do like the dynamic between Keenan and Laia as well, and wouldn't be mad if they got together. I'm gonna continue reading it. I just thought I'd update you guys before I continue on. I will update you guys later on. Alrighty, so I have now finished An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir, and I gave it a 4.5. I really love this book. This was really good, especially for, like, I think it set up the rest of the series pretty well, giving us, like, information on, like, what's gonna, kind of giving us, like, an idea of, like, where the story is going to go. I was completely right about the ending. I mean, not like it was supposed to be, like, surprising in any stance, I don't think. I don't feel like I had many thoughts in this book, just besides the fact that I really enjoyed it. I feel like it's easier for me to comment on the romance aspect, if anything. I feel like I'm just not, like, as well versed in, like, a fantasy story. I feel like I know how to review, like, romance sort of stuff better than I know how to review fantasy, if that makes sense. But I really liked the plot of this. I really liked how easy it was to read, and that, like, it wasn't, like, super complicated or anything like that, so it didn't, like, nothing, like, went over my head. I understood everything that was going on. I understood this world really well. I see why people love it so much. My only, like, complaint about this book, it's not the reason necessarily the reason it didn't get 5 stars. 5 stars are just, like, I'm really picky about them, but my only complaint here, I think, would be the fact that I wish the relationship was more slow burn than it was. Now it's, like, pretty insta-lovey, which I don't really like insta-love, and that's kind of what this is. But I mean, I still like the relationship enough. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, trigger warnings for, not depictions of rape, but, like, mentions of it, kind of, because, like, the slaves got raped and stuff, and sexual abuse and assault. I think there's both. I'm glad I finally got around to it after owning it for many, many years, but yay, we did that. So I've now finished my January TBR, which I'm so happy about. I read all of them. I guess if you watched that video when I did my January stuff when I was reacting to them, I think all the books in that video had gotten 5 stars out of me. Any book that I had put on that TBR had gotten 5 stars. I liked every single book I put on that TBR list, so I guess I'm hopeful for what comes next. I feel like I can't say that often. Anyways, I'm moving on to the Siren now. I just started it. I read I think it was, yeah, the first chapter, not the prologue. I guess, if you haven't seen my February TBR thing, basically Kiera, she's one of my favorite authors. She wrote, there's only one book by her I haven't liked, which is The Betrothed. I haven't read The Crown of the Air, just to be clear, but I read the Selection series. It's one of my favorite series. And then I read the self-published version of The Siren, and I loved that as well. And so this is the published version. Basically, in this book, we are following this girl named Kaylin, and she basically becomes a siren, and she's living out this, like, 100-year sentence, and there's, like, all these, like, rules, like, with a siren. Like, one of them's, like, you can't, like, fall in love, like, while you're on this sentence, but then she does. That's what this book is about. I loved and adored OG Siren when it was self-published, but then again, keep in mind, I mean, I think I still would love it now, but keep in mind, when I did read that originally, I was, like, just getting into reading, so everything I read, I loved most of the time. I've had very little standards going into a book, and now I feel like, okay, you gotta meet, like, this certain level of expectations and stuff, for me to like it, I guess, or to give it 5 stars. I predicted I'm gonna give this book 5 stars, but I don't know for sure. I know I really love the romance between Kaylin and Achille in the original Siren, but again, this is different. Even from the beginning, I know in the original Siren, I guess I'm gonna give you commentary of, like, what's different, I guess, but even the beginning's different. In the original Siren, we met Kaylin when she was already a siren. In this, we meet her when she becomes a siren, so that's, like, how the story begins, like, how she became a siren in the beginning, and I think this explained it well. I do know, I feel like there was too much unnecessary, is backstory the word I'm looking for? But I remember, like thinking back, if I'm critiquing it now, I know there was, like, a lot of portion of her just being a siren and, like, hanging out with the ocean really to get the emphasis, and it took forever to actually meet Achille. I feel like that might be the same thing here, but I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see how I feel about Achille and Kaylin's romance in this one. I know I really loved Achille in the last one. My only complaint so far is I'm listening to the audiobook of it. Maybe I'll switch. I like the narrator. It's just the thing that bugs me is I know she's pronouncing her name wrong. Because her name's Kaylin, and, like, I noticed for sure because, like, they had, like, a whole thing in the original Siren saying how to pronounce her name. I don't think there's necessarily a thing in here, but we're gonna read it. It's gonna be a fun time. I'm excited to finally get this off my TBR. I really enjoyed the first time around, so yeah, I'm gonna continue on reading this book, and I'll update you guys when I get further along into the story. I just thought I'd update you now, but I'm 20% of the way through the Siren. I think I'm gonna get this pretty quickly. I'm listening to the audiobook and it's like, I'm listening to it pretty fast, so it's easier to get through because I did it, I mean, as much as I love Kiera and I love her writing, and I think she's really easy to read, I did struggle, I know, a bit the first time trying to read this specific version. Mainly probably because I was too attached to the other Siren. I think because like I haven't read the other Siren in so long, it's not like I remember a whole ton. I know this is definitely different than what I remember. Like, it's still good. Like, I think it's definitely written better. It's not dragging, at least yet. I think the plot's fun and interesting, and I love sirens, and I love, like, mermaids kind of stuff in general. So, I mean, like, they're not mermaids, but, like, pretty close, you know? Sirens. Kaylin, who's a siren, and, like I said, she's, like, living out this, like, 100-year sentence, and she's told that basically there's, like, certain rules you kind of have to follow while you're living out your sentence, and one of them is, like, you can't fall in love, which, I mean, like, try as you might, but you still might. Anyways, so yeah, we're following Kaylin, and she's made this one in Kinley, and I don't know, I think there's, like, some sort of sense of nostalgia, I guess, attached to it, because I remember, like, when I read the Siren, and then, like, I adored it. It's one of, like, the few books that made me cry, but that's because, like, back then, almost anything could make me cry. I think this book's really cute, and I like it so far. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the premise. I'm enjoying and looking forward to see where the story is going to go. I guess thoughts and feelings so far in the book. I'm enjoying it. I think Kinley's cute, as always, so I like their relationship in general, and I'm excited to see it develop more. I mean, I'm still at parts that I've already read, but I'm enjoying it. I like their relationship. It's a bit different than it was originally, like they meet in a different place, and things look differently than they did in the original book. I mean, if anything, this is making me want to reread the original Siren, which, I mean, I might do. So, this is cute. We'll see if it makes me cry again. I don't think it will, because I know what happens, and I know how it ends, and I'm pretty sure it ends the exact same way the original one did, so I don't foresee this making me cry. So, I just wanted to update you guys before I got, like, any further along into it, because I feel like I'm going to get through this pretty quickly. So, that's all for now. So, I'm 50% into the Siren, and I'm smiling, because it's good. I mean, I don't know, I was a bit worried going into this book because I read the original Siren, like, so long ago. Another example of kind of, like, something that's kind of similar. So, like, in 27 Days, one of my favorite books, I've gushed about it a lot, was originally published in Wattpad, and then it, like, was actually, like, a published book, and I was like, I'm excited to read it. Like, it's a published physical thing now, and I always thought it should be. I still loved it. Like, I think I loved it about equally. And then this, it was just different because, I don't know, even, like, the beginning was just different generally. Like, the way they met was different, but now it's definitely strikingly familiar. Seems pretty exact to me. Like, I was expecting it to go and be, like, a completely different story, but essentially it's not. Like, a lot of the same things are happening, which is making me happy. Do you ever get, like, I feel like you don't really get a chance often to, like, relive how you felt reading your favorite book. Does that make sense? And I feel like this is one of those cases that I could do that. It just meant so much to me. I read it quickly before. I'm reading it quickly again, which isn't a surprise. I just love the story. I love these characters a lot, and I just think it's so good. Easily my favorite book of the year currently, but it's, like, February when I'm filming this, so I've only read, like, 10 books this year, so, but the favorite of that, one of the things that's definitely, like, driving my love for this again, is, like, the prior nostalgia love that I had when I first read it. I don't think what I expected reading this was, like, saying that this is actually better than the original version. I was not expecting that, but I think, like, when thinking about it, I think it actually might be. Maybe because, like, I think this one's better written. Like that Kinley and Kaylin actually meet before they met in the original book, because I feel like it makes their relationship definitely make a lot more sense, because in the original book, I guess for those who've read this book, this might make sense to you, but in the original one, like, they did not meet at college. They met, like, at the point when they meet up again in this book. That was, like, their first meeting. Where, like I said, in this book, they meet at a university. Kinley's going to a university that is right by where Kaylin lives, and he works at a library, and so they meet up there. And maybe there's, like, I guess I'm learning more about Kinley, at least that I forgot about. I love that boy. He's so cute. I just think they're adorable, and I love them. It's definitely, I mean, it wasn't the original Siren, but it is definitely kind of, like, insta-lovey and stuff. but like I'm okay with that. What is this video? I like insta love and I hate friends to lovers. What has happened to me? But I don't know. I think it's definitely like partly nostalgia talking. This book is, I mean, like not like super insta love, but it's just like it still develops a bit. But like she definitely likes him like pretty quickly right off the bat, and he seems to like her back, but not like that has completely been communicated. But like they're just cute. I don't know, I think it's partly the love that I had for this like way back when that's like speaking and coming back into light that I'm like, oh my goodness, they're adorable and I just love them so much. But anyways, this book. So yeah, it's fun, fluffy time. I like the whole Siren element. I think that's really interesting. And like the world she kind of like crafted and like of sirens and like why they're like singing people to their death and like it's because like, oh, they need to feed the ocean and like they're serving a sentence. I just think that's really creative and I like that like thought process. So I like that element and I just love the characters a lot. I think we're definitely introduced to some new characters. I don't know if they were some of them, like I know Aisling, is that what her name is? I'm pronouncing that right. Was in the original Siren. I think she was close. I remember she was like close with Kaylin and they had that emphasis in here too. And then we have some new characters and I can't remember whether or not they were in the original Siren or they weren't. I know there was like other sirens that were around, but I can't remember if they were there or not. Seeing how like being a siren has like this mental toll on Kaylin and like how she's dealing with this. She like makes scrapbooks of all like the people that she drowned and like how she wants to know about like their lives and stuff like that. I think that's really interesting. She's like feeling really bad about it and like it definitely like affects her mentally. I think that's good. I don't know if that was necessarily was it there the first time? I can't remember, but I feel like it definitely not like maybe didn't make the same impression on me as it did the first time. The ocean's definitely written differently. In the original Siren, it was kind of more like she knew what like the ocean was saying to her, and so she would like describe it like third person and being like, she kind of tells me this and stuff. But like in this, like you actually hear the ocean speak, which is interesting, but it's not like the ocean said this. It's just like, oh, come back to me, or I don't know, something like that. Or like, you're safe now, like you actually like hear safe being, or like, oh, I felt safe, or something like that. I don't know. So that's written differently. I don't know which one I like. And I've always felt a little iffy about the ocean relationship with Kaylin. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. That always makes me feel kind of weird. The ocean's like, I love you and stuff like that, but then like Kaylin's like, I don't know, having such a mental toll. I mean, you get to see the ocean's love actually come through at the end of the book, but I think like overall she's just like, Kaylin's just like upset the whole time. I'm excited to read more. I'm hoping there's gonna, I just remember their first date. Well, they did a different first date in this, but like the first date in the original, and I really hope that comes again because that was like one of my favorite parts, and I just remember like squealing about it and like going back and like rereading it a bunch. So this is making me really happy. I love rereading this and I love the story. I love the characters a lot. I think audiobooking the first like half was definitely the way to go. Maybe I'll start reading it physically. I'm gonna continue reading it and I will update you later. Hopefully, I feel like when I finish the book, unless I have something else to say. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. Alrighty, so hopefully this is not my last day filming the reading vlog because I think I'm gonna finish 2 books today. That's the goal anyways, and I think I can do that realistically. But yeah, so with the Siren, I ended up switching from listening to the audiobook to reading it physically, just for the fact that I feel like I'm gonna get through it too quickly if I listen to the audiobook. I kinda just like listen to the audiobook just to get me like further into the book faster because I struggled getting into it the first time. But now I kind of just want to read it physically rather than listening to the audiobook of it, so that's what I'm going to do. Then we have Popular by Ben Wagner. So I switched audiobooks to this one, which I'm about a bit over halfway through. I'm on page 174, 5-ish. I guess I can give you my thoughts, or I guess I'll give you a synopsis first of all. I don't know if I've done that yet. But basically we are following this girl named Maya, and she finds this book on how to be popular from the 50s, and she ends up trying to incorporate that into her everyday life and like as an experiment, and then seeing what happens and then writing about what happens. This is nonfiction, so she actually did this. It's fun. There's like pictures and stuff of her and like her like doing these things, so I can actually like picture what they look like a bit better. So I'm like looking at, like I'm reading the, well, I'm listening to the audiobook for the most part, and then I look at the pictures and stuff too, which I like. I don't know, it's weird me giving like opinions on nonfiction books, and I don't really know how to rate them because like they're talking about someone's life and stuff like that, and like, I don't know, I just choose not to rate nonfiction books. Like, I don't know, I feel like it's different than, like, you know, with, especially because I haven't read a lot of nonfiction, and two, I feel like with fiction books, like, I know, like, okay, I wish that maybe they did this differently as, like, a plot point and blah, 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 but this is, like, someone, like, doing, like, you can't really critique that, if that makes sense. I'm like it's not gonna get a rating from me, but I am enjoying it, if that's what you want to know. I really like Maya. Like I said, keep saying her name, Maya Van Wagner. I don't know why I thought that. It's Wagner. I don't know, maybe this N looks like an R here. Oops. Me for pronouncing that wrong for many years. Oopsie daisies. I think Maya's, like, extremely talented for, like, she was doing this, I believe she's in 7th grade when she did this experiment, and then published this when she was in 8th grade, which, I mean, I was writing a book in 8th grade, so, but, like, looking back on, like, that, like, it's a fiction book, for one, and I have to, like, rewrite the whole thing, so I think she's definitely talented for, you know, writing this. At her age, I pick this up, you should. I think it's fun, and just, like, watching Maya, like, experiment and, like, do all these things, like, seeing people's reactions and stuff, and then maybe learning more about, like, why people are popular and stuff like that. It's not necessarily because of the clothes and the what you're wearing or what you look like. It's more about, like, you talking to people and, like, caring about people. Especially, like, because it reads like a story. Like, I don't feel like necessarily like I'm reading, like, nonfiction. Like, she's talking about her life, and, like, so you're kind of following her throughout her year in school. I'm enjoying this book a lot. I'm definitely curious what Maya is up to now. I know in this book she said she wanted to be a writer. But I looked it up and she hasn't published anything since, but, like, I mean, like, she was in 8th and 9th grade, but, like, she's probably, like, graduated in university now, maybe. I don't really have, like, a lot to say otherwise. I think that's all I really have to say, but it's good. I recommend it. Hello. So, I finished Popular. I read this in a day, which wasn't surprising, because it was easy to fly through. I really enjoyed it, so I don't have much to say about this, honestly. It's a really good book, and I think I really liked the commentary and, like, her kind of, like, talking about, like, popularity, and, like, even, like, how she talked to, like, people afterwards, like, asking them about, like, how, if they thought there was popularity, and if they thought they were popular, and, like, all these sorts of things. I thought that was really interesting, and even, like, in my school, I remember, like, somebody was, like, I always thought there was, like, kind of some sort of popularity involved. Not in, like, the, like, movie sense where the popular people, like, the mean people, you know? Like, it was in, like, just, like, you could just tell, like, there's, like, a big friend group in my grade. And I remember someone being like, oh, like, we don't have popularity, and I'm like, yeah, we do. But, yeah, like, interesting to see, like, people's perspectives on it, because I feel like if I asked, like, people, like, at my school, I wonder what they would say. I feel like they would be like, there's not popularity. Maybe it's all in my head. It's kind of like a head thing. I liked seeing Maya just, like, kind of, I guess, grow throughout this year, and, like, she learned a lot. People, like, want to be, like, are gonna be, like, expecting you to come up to them. And they're not gonna know to come up to you, you know? Like, you kind of have to reach out if you, like, want to socialize with people. You gotta make that effort and move and stuff. So, yeah. Overall, this is really good. I feel like if you're in middle school, or, like, just starting middle school especially, I think this is a really good book to pick up. And would recommend it just for that. I think it's very good in that sense. I think it's helpful, and, like, I think, like, shows a lot. Especially because, like, it's nonfiction, and it's, like, it's interesting, like, it reads like a story, but I think, yeah, like, seeing, like, especially if, like, you're someone who's, like, really, like, introverted, like myself, or, like, is struggling to, like, make friends in school, I think this is, like, perfect for that, and you should definitely pick this book up. I think it's helpful, and I think you can definitely, like, learn a lot from this book. Now I'm gonna continue and hopefully finish reading The Siren, and I will update you guys once I'm further along into this. I have finished The Siren! It's getting 5 stars. I don't know if you've expected anything else. I definitely got, like, I know, like, when I first read this book, I full-on sobbed. But keep in mind, this was, like, the self-published version was, like, one of the first, like, books I'd ever read. I think it was after my whole selection high. We found a way to get a copy of the book, and I was just, like, cool. So, and I loved Kiera already because I loved the selection series, and this is just, like, I think it's reaffirmed how, I guess, like, special it is to me. I don't know if it's specifically special because, like, of the nostalgia attachment to it, but it's even, like, great to read the acknowledgements and, like, just talking about, like, how this is, like, her first book, and, like, how, like, originally didn't get traditionally published, but because of, like, the readers and stuff like, that dream happened, and I think that's just, like, wonderful. I don't really read the acknowledgements that often, but that's what I did. I think, again, I do have I don't know, I'm just a person that always seems to have at least one critique, even with like my 5 stars. Because I can't give this anything else but a 5 star, so for one. My only critique I think would be I wish there was more of the romance in the book, especially when it has this whole like overarching plot line that like they're meant to be together sort of thing. I think we needed a bit more to go off of. I think maybe they spent a few days together. I think that would have just been, I feel like there's like a lot of the book that could have been shortened when they're like just the sisters, or the Siren sisters kind of thing, like they're doing their stuff and like she's just mourning a lot for like 100 pages, and then I don't know, I think they just needed some more time together. That's my feelings. There's definitely differences from what I can remember. I feel like I remember the Siren like pretty well, so it's not like a book like even though I read it like so long ago and I haven't reread it in like a very long time. It's a book that I just remember very clearly. The middle chunk, I guess when she's with the Kinley, that part's the same. I liked that there was more stuff in this one, and like how like she like met him at the university first, because I think that made the story more realistic in a sense of them like kind of like falling for each other and stuff, is them like meeting somewhere else first before like actually like because in the original book she just like met him when she was like washed up on shore. I think she like saw him a couple of times. The end made me teary-eyed. I'm still like, I'm teary-eyed thinking about it. I don't full on sob over books anymore, but I do get teary-eyed sometimes. But it just was a wonderful, beautiful story. If you haven't picked this up, I think you should. I mean, maybe it's just my personal bias, because I know there's people that definitely don't like it. But I mean, I recommend it. Let's talk about the Ocean real quick. I don't know how I feel about her. I mean, I never really did. I think more so I don't like her. I find her very toxic, and the whole time I was just being like, if you love me, let me go. I also just like found that Kaylin's emotions were just like I felt them, and I find that when I'm like feeling a character's emotions, like that's just some good writing. This became this. Because like I was young when I read this, so I just didn't really analyze their emotions as much and couldn't be as in time with it. Like I just felt sad, but like even like just the mental toll, I guess, that Kaylin showed for being a siren and having to kill all these people, and like how that like affected her, I thought was written really well. I think all I really needed was more romance in this book. That's like the only thing I'd critique it separate time around. I think there should have been more of that. Also, something I really loved this time around that I don't think I appreciated when I read this version was just the fact, like the sirens and like their sisterhood and their like just relationship. I really appreciated it, and I really liked seeing it, and I really liked learning about their characters. I definitely was also shocked at this plot because like I said, like the middle portion's the same, but I think the rest of it did get changed, and I think it is kind of for the better. Like I surprisingly think I did like this book more than the Siren. I think it's just generally like it's written better. I think a lot more things that maybe wouldn't have made as much sense in the Siren that I may, if I reread it now, would have been like, okay, yeah, maybe not. There's like a lot of things that this book did that I just preferred, and I think I like more. Finished it. Finally, after being on my TBR for like very many years, I finished it, can confirm it is a 5 star, and I loved it. Let's wrap things up for this vlog. It went really well. I think I finished this vlog in like 4 days, I think. So that worked out. First book I read was Ember by Saba Tahir, which I gave a 4.5. Then we have Popular by Maya Van Wagner, which is about a girl who wants to learn how to be popular. So she like takes this like how to be popular guide from the 50s, and she starts following it and just seeing what happens. And I didn't rate this one, but it was really good. I enjoyed it. And the last book is The Siren by Kiera, which got 5 stars. Those are the books that I read. I really enjoyed all of them. So what does this tell me about my past self? I know my tastes. It's all the books that, like, I got years ago and I wanted to read years ago. I clearly wanted to read for a good reason because I enjoyed them all. Thank you guys so much for watching this vlog, and I will see you guys soon with a new video. Bye!